It's very hot, it's very humid, it's terrible. We all sit here wondering when the night is going to come in, when the morning is going to end, and when this thing going to come on.
For 1 week, these Richmond Hill residents sat and waited. Today, they say for the first time, utility trucks rolled in to finally restore their power.
It's very hard because the fridge is off, you can't cook. You can't do nothing, and there's so many stuff to throw away in the fridge.
Pam Karupa's elderly mother suffered a stroke 2 years ago. This heat, she says, is dangerous for her ailing health and why she had to send her mom to a neighbor's home overnight for some relief in air conditioning.
Things happen, what can I say? But they take too long. They should have been here earlier.
That sentiment shared by several elected officials in Queens.
Con Ed failed Queens utterly and spectacularly.
Acting Borough President Sharon Lee called it a disgrace. At the peak of the outage, she says, more than 73,000 were without power in this borough alone. Last night, she adds not a single one of Queens' 14 community districts could say they were fully restored. She's asking the utility to offer full refunds for August. In response, Con Ed saying Queens was hit particularly hard by this storm, and we have been aggressive in our response there. We have restored more than 98% of the Queens customers who were affected and have crews assigned or about to be assigned for the rest. From power to trees, another considerable problem across the boroughs. Looming trees hovering on overhead power lines. Where does it sit? A city sidewalk versus a homeowner's property. Whose responsibility is it?
How many times do we have to go through the storm before we realize that storms are going to continue to come?
Residents are told to call 311 for these types of concerns, and many tell us when they do, a waiting game ensues. City inspectors eventually come out, assess, but then more waiting. Sometimes permits are granted for trimming or a cut altogether. For this Queens Village resident, 1 year after the city trimmed this tree, despite his request for it to be taken down completely, it came down on its own, thanks to the strength of Isaias. The issue, Adams' office says, is widespread and in need of serious attention by the city.
The process of pruning a tree, getting a response from 311 needs to move into real time. The dysfunctionalities create inequities.
A full analysis has not been done by the city since 2013, according to the Brooklyn Borough president, and he says it is long time that we do one again. He wants to look at two things. He wants to look at the pruning of the trees, the maintenance of the trees, but also these overhead wires across the city. He wants to look at an estimation from Con Ed to see how much it'll cost to bury these lines. Again, every time we see a storm, big or small, the same two issues arise. And I do want to bring to you a late statement that we received from the New York City Parks Department. They are just one of two agencies that are responsible for the maintenance of trees. The Department of Buildings plays some role to some degree. They say major storms of this nature can uproot healthy trees. They say both in Richmond Hills and in Queens Village, trees were inspected and that they found them to be okay and that healthy trees would not come down. They say inspections continue in every borough every single day. This year, they estimate to complete 55,000 inspections alone. From Richmond Hills, Queens, I'm Narmeen Chaudhry, Pix 11 News.